Welcome back to the Flower Garden. My name is Lisa, and today I wanted to talk about how to balance the darkness with the lightness when it comes to spiritual awakening. So let's get into it. So when it comes to awakening, I always like to say that there are two sides to it. There's the light and then there's the dark. And when we talk about the light, then usually there are topics like the law of attraction, meditation, other light topics that you might think about that aren't really controversial. And most people, can pretty much agree that these are beneficial things. Whereas there's also the dark side. So the dark side tends to be people who come into spirituality, stumble upon spirituality by really questioning things in society, and they start to realize that things really aren't as they appear, and that there are organizations, there are people who are kind of keeping us down and programming us in certain ways to think certain ways. And so they start to question, well, why is everything this way? Why are we not doing anything about this, right? And you kind of get into this very low vibration, into this negativity, into this darkness, right? But as we progress on our spiritual journey, we start to realize that we have to have both. That we have to have light and we have to have dark. And truly progressing as a spiritual person means realizing both of these things, and not just staying in the light so that you're blissfully ignorant, and not being in the dark so that you're just a very angry person who's very confused, right? You have to have both. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about how we can work to balance both of those things and make sure that you have a good balance and that you're grounded and all that good stuff. Tip number one is to be discerning with the content that you consume. So a lot of times when we start to wake up, usually people who come from the dark side of waking up, they will start realizing, oh, all of this content has all of these hidden meanings in it, and it really is just keeping us in a low vibe. A lot of content is focusing on violence. The news is constantly focusing on violence, on the negativity in the world, and you start to kind of question that. But the next step to questioning it is starting to be discerning and really choosing the content that you start to consume, and really, doing your research to make sure that what you're watching is really high vibrational, and really looking behind, who is producing this stuff? Where is the money coming from? Making sure that the content you are consuming is high vibe, and it doesn't have any hidden meanings or anything like that in it. So this includes things like movies, TV shows, music, listening to the radio, the news, and I mean pretty much everything around us is there are constantly messages all around us, right? Marketing is all around us. You're constantly seeing billboards, you're constantly seeing commercials, you're constantly being conditioned to think a certain way, right? And so it's very important to just be discerning about that and to realize, okay, well, what do I believe? Which of these messages is serving me, if any of them, right? Do I want to believe the things that are being fed to me every single day through music, through TV shows, through movies? Or do I want to decide for myself and reprogram my own mind and put things into my subconscious mind that I value, right? And things that I know are high vibrational and good for me, information that is going to bring me to a higher frequency and help me create the reality that I desire. Tip number two is to unplug from the internet as much as possible. And when we think about this, really, the internet is, especially with social media, there's all of these things that really hook you in and just make you mindlessly scroll. So you're really wasting time on this activity and not realizing how much time is passing by, and really not realizing what you're consuming, because it's just a constant cycle of consume, and you're not realizing, oh, why am I watching this video? This has nothing good in it. There is nothing good that is conditioning me in a specific way that I want to be conditioned, right? Not conditioning me in a good way, but rather conditioning my mind to focus on drama and bad things and being cynical. And when you think about it, this kind of random consumption and this shortening of our attention span with TikTok and, Vine was around, and, really short advertisements on Facebook and videos on Instagram that are really short. With this shortening of our attention span, that is how they're able to actually control our attention, right? Is by saying, okay, well, your attention span is so short, I can just, wiggle this over here. There's this event that's happening. There's whatever happening, and we all have to pay attention to it, right? Pay attention to this right here. And they put up all of these false flags, all of this disinformation or whatever else that they're putting out there. And they're saying, hey, look at this. Meanwhile, there's all of this going on over here, and we're not paying attention, right? Even if it's information that's being exposed to the public or something that's actually happening publicly, we're just not seeing it because our attention is over here. And we have been programmed to have this kind of short span attention. We have been programmed to put our attention in specific places by these social media platforms and other forms of conditioning that have happened over the internet. And so with that, they're very easily able to put our attention on whatever is happening here, whatever they want us to pay attention to here, but then we're not seeing anything that's happening here. So the best thing that you can do for yourself when waking up is unplug from that as much as possible, right? And it goes back to that discerning factor, right? So be discerning with the things that you're consuming and pull it back and see, hey, what's going on over here? What am I missing over here that, while everyone is paying attention to this specific thing, while we're being told, hey, you have to look at this, you have to pay attention to this, why is that happening? Why is the news telling us to focus on this specific thing so much? Why is every single channel, every single, big social media presence, influencer, whatever, talking about this thing? Why? Is there something else going on that we're not aware of? It doesn't mean completely pull away from this world, right? You can still be informed, but make sure that you're not just being sucked in mindlessly into the newest trend, the newest fad, the newest disaster. Tip number 3 is to ground yourself in nature. So this goes along with the previous tip really well, because when we unplug from the internet, right, and we look around, we're like, what is there to do? What am I going to do? So something that's really good to do is to ground in nature, because that really detoxes our body from, a lot of negative energies, from, all of the, I don't know if this is the right word. I'm not a scientist, but, all of the waves and things that we're being exposed to through technology, right? Everyone's freaking out microwave waves and blah, 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 whatever. All of that stuff, right? A good way to detox yourself of that is to go into nature, to lay in the grass, to walk in the grass barefoot. And, it's a good way of tuning back into yourself and going within, as opposed to constantly giving away all your attention, giving yourself away to all of these, technologies that are just sucking all of your energy out, right? You're literally being sucked into something and just mindlessly scrolling, So as opposed to doing that, you are going to nature, you are plugging into yourself, you're going within, and you're actually paying attention to, well, what's going on in my mind? What am I thinking about? And being conscious of what is happening with you, what is happening with the world around you. And it also creates more appreciation for the world around you, right? Because when we are so deeply in the dark side of awakening, right? Because like I said, some people wake up from the light side, some people wake up from the dark side. And for a lot of people who come from the dark side, on both sides, it can be difficult to integrate both, because you come from one side or the other and they're kind of opposites, right? In one, it's like, well, you create the reality you want and, positive vibes and all this stuff. Whereas in the other one, it's like, reality is not what you thought it was. Like, there's all these conspiracy theories, everything's dark, celebrities are evil. And you're like, well, how do I balance that? So something that's really great is to really just step away from that, and being in nature actually helps you integrate that light without having to really try that hard. You're just already detoxing yourself. You're already taking in a lot of the healing powers of nature just by being there. There's nothing you have to do. You can meditate, you can walk around, but just being in nature is enough. Tip number 4 is to start observing your thoughts. And you can do this through meditation or through journaling. And there are also other ways that you can do this, but the ones that I find are easiest, the ones that you can do on a daily basis, are through journaling and through meditation. And so generally what I do is in the morning I will wake up, and the first thing that I do is I will journal, and I will just get all of my thoughts out on the paper, whatever happened in the previous day, whatever dreams I had, anything like that. So that way I'm really checking in with myself. How am I thinking today? What can I adjust? What tweaks can I make to my thinking? What can I work on? What can I heal today? And right after that, right after I journal, I will meditate. And I allow myself to just meditate for however long. I feel like different things work for different people. You can just set a timer and meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Any amount of time is great. Even if you can meditate for just 1 minute, it's good, because our purpose is to start observing our thoughts, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, you are all over the place. You're constantly consuming things. You're constantly being bombarded with information, right? And it can be very hard to become self-aware when you're living in that kind of environment, right? And so meditation allows you to become self-aware, to be aware of those thoughts. And this can be kind of counterintuitive to, people often think, oh, with meditation, you stop all thinking, right? You push all your thoughts away. You don't think about anything. And to an extent, that's true. However, with meditation, it's more about if a thought comes up, you acknowledge it and you release it. So you let it go, right? It's less about controlling as much as it is just, okay, you allow this to be here and you let it go. Because a lot of people think that it's about pushing things away, but that creates resistance. And, when we think about the way that we think, the way that our mind operates in our daily life outside of meditation, we're just constantly thinking. Whatever thought comes to mind, we just roll with it, and it's a constant, just riding the trains of all your thoughts, right? Whereas with meditation, it's like, okay, I see that train there. I'm going to let it pass. I'm going to stay in my nice little mountain and continue meditating. And another note about journaling, when you journal, I really want you to allow yourself to write whatever you want. Journaling is a conversation with yourself. So you can write anything that you want, right? No one's going to read that. So it's really good for your own self-acceptance, for your own self-love, for you to just allow yourself to write whatever you need. Because if you don't allow yourself to express yourself, then again, you're kind of, gypping yourself, because you're not being honest. You're not actually observing what thoughts you're having, right? Whereas if you put it all out on paper exactly as you're thinking it, no matter how negative you think it is, no matter how weird you think it is, if you put it all out on paper, you get a better view of what's going on in your head, right? Because in the moment, you're not thinking about the thoughts that you're thinking about, right? You're not like, oh, I'm aware of this thought. So when you write it down and return to it later, or even right after, it's like, oh, this is what I was thinking about. Well, let's see what we can do here. What can I work on? And the last tip number 5, is to find your soul tribe, to find people who are like-minded. Other people who are awakened and can teach you about things that you're interested in. Because a lot of times when we wake up, it can be very lonely. It can feel very isolating. You start realizing all of these things and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't have anyone I can talk to about this. And then that's a really isolating thing, and that can actually stunt your growth, stunt your awakening, right? So it's really important for your own sake, for your own mental health, right, to find people that you can talk to about this and have civil conversations, and not conversations where, you say it and you just kind of are afraid and wait to see if they'll think you're crazy or like what they'll say, as opposed to finding someone that you can talk to about these topics freely. So it's really good to find people that you can talk to about this stuff in order to be able to get that support when you do start feeling a little more, a little more plunged into the darkness, when you've been, looking through all kinds of disclosure information and all this kind of stuff, it can feel like it really brings your vibe down. So being able to talk to other people is a really good thing, because you'll actually get support, and you can actually hear from someone that maybe also is going through the same thing or has gone through the same thing, and they have advice for you as well. Those were my 5 tips on how to balance the darkness and the lightness of awakening. And if you found that helpful, then make sure you turn on that notification bell, because in the next video, I'm going to be talking about why you should not let go of your desire. A lot of people tell you should let go of your desire. Here's my thoughts on why you should not. And if you found that helpful and you want to check out more of these topics, and you want to learn more about the law of attraction, about other esoteric topics, about your mindset, about how to be positive, about all kinds of stuff, then you can check out these videos right here. And until my next video, I hope you have a good week. I hope you have a good day. And I love you so much. Kisses. Bye.